Blood Over Brighthaven by M.L. Wang is a phenomenal book. It's a standalone fantasy novel that has an exciting plot and innovative magic system, but also has many meaningful layers and themes woven into it, and parallels to our world that are thought-provoking. This is a book that will stay with you for a long time as you mull it over, demanding some maybe uncomfortable self-reflection, in a good way. It may challenge your beliefs and perspective alongside being an entertaining read or listen. M.L. Wang's previous standalone fantasy book, The Sword of Kaigan, dealt with one of the characters having his whole world view challenged and dismantled everything that he had been led to believe to be true. He learns of the propaganda that his people have been fed and is shaken to the core. In this book, Blood Over Brighthaven, it follows in a similar vein of the 27-year-old female main character's whole belief system, her lifelong indoctrination, and the very ground she stands on being ripped from under her, and discovering the dark truth. What will she do with what she finds, or will she just unravel with the horror of it all? This book is set in a city called Tehran. A magical barrier dome surrounds it, protecting it from a hard-to-survive level of cold, and also protecting people inside from something called the Blight. The Blight consists of ribbons of light that appear out of nowhere and kill someone. The city of Tehran runs on magic. Its barrier, technology, energy, and running water are all powered by magic. It's also a deeply sexist, oppressive, and patriarchal place. Women are oppressed and subjugated. There's also an ethnicity of people called the Quen, who are from the treacherous lands outside of the city, who have travelled to the city in hope of a safer life. They are treated like their lives are worth nothing by the Tyrannish, the citizens, who refer to them as rats. The Quen are thought of as smelly, thick, and aggressive by the Tyrannish citizens. Siona, the 27-year-old main character, is a postgraduate mage at the University of Magics and Industry. The next level up from her current position is High Mage, where she would be able to publish her own papers and research, which is her dream. But there has never been a woman as a High Mage in the city's history ever. All 100 of the High Mages are men. But once every decade, one woman is allowed to take the test to become a High Mage. At the beginning of this book, Siona is about to take the test, which is adjudicated by the 12 archmages of the university. The magic system is fascinating. The way I describe it is that it's quite similar to coding, to programming language. There's a spellograph machine where you type out two parts of the spell, the first being the action spell, and the second part being a mapping spell to source the power for a spell. Siona's academic and practical specialism is this sourcing of power from the other realm. A copper coil attached to the spellograph opens up a window to see vaguely into the other realm. It's dark with blobs of white light to indicate places that contain power that you can siphon for your spell. Then you put the coordinates of that location of light into your spellograph in order to siphon the power. It's a very satisfying magic system. I love the main character Siona because she's interesting and a bit different. She's spiky, not accommodating or compliant. In order to get where she has, in a world that puts up every barrier for women, she has had to be completely focused on her work, her studies, to the point of not having time to look around her and see the people caring for her and enabling her to fulfill her potential. She takes them for granted. She's described as selfish, but she's no more so than the men, in that they have others, for example their wife, caring for them, cooking, cleaning, household admin, so that they're able to focus on their work and research. The men are never called selfish for doing this, so there's that double standard there when Siona is called selfish for doing the same thing, for being ambitious and wanting to go down in history for her research in her magical field. That's the non-spoiler part of this review, so go away and read the book if you haven't already, and then come back for the rest of the review and to discuss the book in the comments. It is amazing and I recommend it. But don't spoil the twist. Okay, so into the spoiler section. So I devoured the High Mage testing part. I loved seeing Siona's brilliance and watch her problem solving. After she achieves High Mage status, she is automatically put into researching a time-sensitive project. She's got 12 weeks to come up with a mapping and sourcing spell that will enable the barrier of the city to be expanded because of overpopulation. I enjoyed this academic stage of the book intensely as Siona works in her lab. This is when she meets Tommel, a Quen janitor who becomes her assistant, and gradually together they figure out a dark secret behind the magic. Even though Siona has fought against prejudice her whole life, she herself does the same to the Quen. She is blind to her own biases, and it's not until she gradually gets to know Tommel, her assistant, who is a Quen, that her view starts to shift slightly. But even then, she thinks it's because that Tommel is different and special, not like the others of his kind. For a long while, she still sees Quen in general as being inferior. Tommel has to explain a lot, and he puts in all the emotional labour to make her see differently. She doesn't put in the work herself to learn more, but she's confronted with the truth of Tommel every day at work. She's fighting against a lifetime of entrenched indoctrination and brainwashing, systemic structures that have been put in place by powerful men to maintain control by the few and to maintain their comfort, safety, and quality of living at the expense of others. I did guess part of the big reveal and secret about magic. Again, spoiler alert here. I guessed that the power that being sourced from the other realm was actually from living beings, humans, in another reality. But I didn't guess that there was no other realm. In reality, the power for all their spells and all their magic was being siphoned from their own world. The coordinates for the mapping spells were from the Quen's lands outside of the city. Magic in the city is all being powered from the life sources of the land animals and, horrifically, from humans, the Quen people, and killing them. That is what the blight is. You have to be careful with ripping out people's belief systems and yanking the carpet from beneath their feet. When Siona discovers all this, that with all her spells she has been killing people, that the whole sacred city runs on the deaths of people, at first she can't believe it and is in denial and lashes out at Tommel. But she tests the theory further in her relentless pursuit of truth. When it's confirmed, she unravels in the horror and loses her mind for a couple of days before deciding to use that absolute horror of it to change things. Her world further unravels when she discovers that everything she has ever believed has been lies, and that it's all a big conspiracy. All the archmages already know, and most of the high mages. And the reason that they don't let women in to become high mages is that they think that women are too weak to cope with the reality. They don't think that they have the mental fortitude needed to do what they deem as necessary to do God's work, to be murderers. The whole of Tehran has been living off the deaths of the Quen. They have been benefiting from it all their lives unknowingly murderers, apart from the people higher up in the city who did know. This poses the question of how much the people are complicit, how much they don't question things too closely. The book implies that it doesn't matter that they didn't know, they still are to blame, and that intent doesn't change what happened, the impact, the consequences of the way they live. Obviously, the ones who knew are to blame, but the others? Should they have been more curious sooner? The ending is devastating, but it's such an incredible story, both enjoyable in its fantasy elements, but meaningful in its many layers, that gives plenty to think about and apply to our own world. Racism, sexism, colonialism, how we benefit, how much do we turn a blind eye or turn our gaze away from. Everything that we have in our industrialised world, how many people have paid for it with their lives in the past, how people are still paying for it, how is the natural world paying for it, how we're plundering our world and natural resources to sustain our lifestyles. Lots of things to chew over. What did you think of the book? Let me know in the comments. And if you're so inclined, please give me a like and a follow. If you enjoyed this video, please consider going to gofundme.com/SaveJenny, where I'm fundraising for life-saving neurosurgery. Thank you.